So hello everyone and welcome to Career Launcher. So in today's class, we are going to discuss Morley-Minto Reforms 1909. We are going to discuss this because if you see the previous year questions of CLAT in the last 2 years especially, they are asking questions from modern Indian history topic. And that is why I hope you are aware, especially in the last 2-3 weeks, I am discussing a lot of modern Indian history questions so that it would be easy for you if question comes from these topics. Okay. So am I audible, visible? Is the slide visible? If everything is fine, please write yes in the comments. Is everything fine? Is everything fine? Okay. So now, if you are interested to watch the previous classes, तो सबसे पहले एक काम करो, first please subscribe to our channel if you have not subscribed yet. ठीक है, go to the playlist. यहाँ आपको एक playlist मिलेगा, this one. विजयनगर एम्पायर करके है ना, उसमें व्यू फुल प्लेलिस्ट पे क्लिक करोगे, you will get the many videos. एटलीस्ट यहाँ से देख लेना, गांधी सत्याग्रह मूवमेंट लिखा है ना, so इससे इसके बिलो जितने भी है, all the videos that are below it, you should watch it. ठीक है? Because there have been questions like civil disobedience movement se we have seen previous year question. Jallianwala Bagh massacre pe we have seen previous year question. Okay, so maybe in the upcoming exam they can ask from other topics also. Okay, that is why we are discussing this modern Indian history topic as well. Okay, so let us begin. And आप देख सकते हो ये सब सारी classes, Cripps Mission, Morley-Minto Reforms, Montagu Reforms. So this I am discussing today, and tomorrow I will discuss Montagu Cripps reforms. Okay. Okay. So let us begin with the first question. The first question says Morley-Minto reforms were the set of reforms brought in the year 1909, 1906, 1910, 1911. Everyone should be answering. कब लाया गया था? So, I mean, this question does not require your prior knowledge, because if you are smart enough, you can see the description of the YouTube video. The thumbnail also mentions this. Yes, Masini is writing. The right answer is 1909. So this is the time Morley-Minto reforms were brought, 1909. Now, let's move on further to the next one. Morley-Minto reforms were officially known as what? Your options are Government of India Act 1909, Indian Council Act 1909, Indian Information Act 1909, Separate Electorates Act 1909. What is the answer? बताओ. Morley-Minto reforms को ऑफिशियली क्या कहते थे? I am waiting for the response. Please answer. The right answer. What is the right answer? Anyone? The right answer is option B, Indian Council Act 1909. ठीक है, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया 1935 में आता है. ठीक है, सो इसका नाम था ऑप्शन बी, इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1909. यस, हिमालयन नोमैड, यू आर राइट. दिस इज द राइट आंसर टू दिस क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, ओके. Let's move on to the next question. The next question is about the same topic. The Indian Councils Act 1909, which was famously known as Morley-Minto Reforms, was passed in It was passed as an ordinance by Governor General Lord Minto. It was passed by Imperial Legislative Council. It was passed by British Parliament, or it was passed as an ordinance by British monarch. What is the right answer to this question? I am waiting for the response. इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट, जिसको मॉर्ले-मिंटो रिफॉर्म्स कहते हैं, उल्टा लिखा गया, मॉर्ले-मिंटो कहते हैं, मिंटो मॉर्ले लिखा गया, मॉर्ले-मिंटो रिफॉर्म्स कहते हैं, इट शुड बी रिटन एज मॉर्ले-मिंटो, ठीक है। दिस वाज पास्ड बाय व्हिच बॉडी? एक तरह से ऑर्डिनेंस बना के पास किया गया था लॉर्ड मिंटो गवर्नर जनरल के द्वारा, या इंपीरियल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल ने पास किया था, या ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट ने पास किया था। ये ऑर्डिनेंस पास किया गया था ब्रिटिश मोनार्क के द्वारा। व्हाट इज द आंसर? द राइट आंसर इज इट वाज पास्ड बाय ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट। सी इज द राइट आंसर, ठीक है। इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट को ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट ने पास किया था, है ना। इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1909, also known as Minto-Morley and Morley-Minto Reforms, है ना। It was passed and is an act of parliament by UK Parliament या British Parliament कह सकते हो। हाँ, मॉर्ले-मिंटो नाम कैसे पड़ा? बिकॉज लॉर्ड मिंटो जो थे गवर्नर जनरल या वाइसराय थे इंडिया के, और जॉन मॉर्ले जो थे वो सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट थे, तो मिंटो और मॉर्ले नाम निकाल दिया गया। ओके, सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट क्या होता है? देखो आप इसे समझो। एवरी कंट्री में, हर कंट्री में, जैसे इंग्लैंड में प्राइम मिनिस्टर होते थे एंड अदर मिनिस्टर्स वे देयर, बहुत सारे मिनिस्टर्स होते थे, ठीक है। सो वन ऑफ द मिनिस्टर वाज स्पेसिफिकली डेजिग्नेटेड फॉर इंडिया, उनको कहते थे सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट फॉर इंडिया। एक खास मिनिस्टर बनाए गए थे जो कि पीएम के अंडर में रहेंगे इंग्लैंड में, और वो इंडिया के लिए, बिकॉज इंडिया वाज अंडर इंग्लैंड, तो a particular minister was made secretary of state for India. Okay, so used to sit in England, of course British prime minister के अंडर में थे, और उनका काम इंडिया की तरफ देखना था और इंडिया से रिलेटेड मैटर्स में। So secretary of state for India was John Morley, और वाइसरॉय जो थे उनका नाम था लॉर्ड मिंटो, इसीलिए नाम हो गया मॉर्ले और मिंटो मिला करके मॉर्ले-मिंटो रिफॉर्म्स, ठीक है। That is what you should be knowing. अच्छा, ये तो हो गया ऑप्शन सी। एक और ऑप्शन है ऑप्शन बी, इंपीरियल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल। ये क्या होता था? ये जो था ना बिफोर 1947, यानी इंडिपेंडेंस से पहले, दिस वाज नथिंग बट अ पार्लियामेंट ऑफ इंडिया। मतलब समझो, पार्लियामेंट का प्रीकर्सर था ये, इंपीरियल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल इसको कहते हैं, ठीक है। तो अगर आप देखोगे, सो इंपीरियल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल लेटर ऑन बिकेम पार्लियामेंट ऑफ इंडिया। तो पार्लियामेंट में 2 हाउसेस आर देयर, वन इज कॉल्ड एज लोकसभा, इसको लोअर हाउस कहते हैं, अनदर वन इज कॉल्ड एज राज्यसभा, इसको अपर हाउस कहते हैं, ठीक है। सिमिलरली इंपीरियल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल में 2 हाउसेस होता था, एक था काउंसिल ऑफ स्टेट, लिखा है ना काउंसिल ऑफ स्टेट, जिसको अपर हाउस कहते हैं, सिमिलर टू राज्यसभा टुडे, और दूसरा है सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली। सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली ये लोअर हाउस है, ठीक है। दैट इज व्हाट समथिंग सिमिलर टू लोकसभा वाज सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए। अच्छा, एक चीज और है, आई होप यू ऑल आर अवेयर, सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली में in 1929 who put the low intensity bomb on central legislative assembly? What is his name? Anyone? In central legislative assembly, which was the lower house of imperial legislative council, in 1929 who put a low intensity bomb? A very famous Indian revolutionary. बताइए the नाम। I'm sure you must have heard. Bhagat Singh. Yes, very good. Huh? And Bhakteshwar Dutt. तो ये वही सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली में रखा था, जो लोअर हाउस था उसमें, ठीक है। दैट इज व्हाट यू शुड बी नोइंग। तो ये इंडिया में लॉ बनाती थी, और ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट ब्रिटेन से लॉ बन के आता था। तो ये जो इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1909 था, दिस वाज मेड बाय ब्रिटेन, ठीक है। So this was an Indian. This was like an Indian parliament, I think, and this was a sort of a British parliament. I mean, so this law was made by British parliament. So C is the right answer. Okay, now let us talk something about it. So if you talk about the Morley-Minto Reforms, which was brought in 1909, this actually changed a lot of things that were brought in Indian Council Act 1861 and 1892. So thoda sa hum log these two also we will discuss a little bit. So that when we will discuss this, it will be easy for us to understand the Indian Council Act 1909, also known as Morley-Minto Reforms. ठीक है, तो थोड़ा सा हम लोग ये दोनों भी डिस्कस करेंगे, इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1861 एंड इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1892. ओके, सो लेट अस फर्स्ट डिस्कस इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1861. देखो, इसको डिस्कस करने से पहले सबसे पहले हम लोग समझना पड़ेगा 4 years बैक वी हैड सीन 1857 रिवॉल्ट. ठीक है, आई होप यू आर अवेयर, नॉर्थ इंडिया में, स्पेशली नॉर्थ इंडिया में, दिस रीजन में वी हैड सीन 1857 revolt. And it was a massive revolt against British. Okay. अच्छा, when revolt happened, who was the viceroy or governor general of India? बता सकते हो? This is asked in many exams. जब 1857 revolt हुआ था, तो गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया कौन थे? Anyone? Because this is asked in many exams. बहुत सारी जगह पूछा था ये. So the answer is Lord Canning. ठीक है. Yes. So उसकी बात क्या हुआ? 1857 रिवॉल्ट के बाद this law was passed by British Parliament 1861 में, and they actually wanted to restructure everything. So they restored the legislative powers of Bombay and Madras presidency. देखो actually होता क्या है? I hope you are aware. एक कैलकाटा प्रेसिडेंसी यहाँ थी, है ना? कैलकाटा प्रेसिडेंसी यहाँ पर जो थी उसको कहते थे बॉम्बे प्रेसिडेंसी. और दिस रीजन में थी उसको कहते हैं मद्रास प्रेसिडेंसी. ठीक है. सो व्हाट हैपेंड वाज, जो प्रीवियस लॉज थे 1833 के जो लॉज थे और रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट 1773 थे, दे हैड गिवन मोर पावर्स. तो ये तीनों अलग अलग स्टेट में अलग अलग प्रेसिडेंसी थे, बट व्हाट हैपेंड वाज प्रीवियसली these two presidencies power were given to Calcutta presidency. इसीलिए यहाँ पे कैलकाटा में इनका कैपिटल भी हो गया था. कैलकाटा was the capital where viceroy used to sit until 1911. In 1911 when Delhi it got shifted. But before that, so what happened was the power of Bombay and Madras presidency was given to Calcutta. एक तरह से centralization हो गया था earlier. Earlier means 1773 and 1833 में. So in Indian Council Act 1861 it got reversed. But the Bombay presidency and Madras presidency were given back the powers. That is what happened in Indian Council Act 1861. ठीक है. तो आप चाहो तो गवर्नर जनरल पर I have made a video. You can watch it where I have discussed about all the important governor generals. Okay. फिर और क्या क्या हुआ इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1861 में? पोर्टफोलियो सिस्टम लाया गया. ये इंपॉर्टेंट पता होना चाहिए. पोर्टफोलियो सिस्टम लाइक वी आर टुडे आल्सो. अगर कोई भी मिनिस्टर होते हैं उनको पोर्टफोलियो मिलता है ना? जैसे मिनिस्टर ऑफ होम, मिनिस्टर ऑफ डिफेंस, मिनिस्टर ऑफ sports, and so that is called as portfolio. So every ministers are given portfolio. So this system was started in Indian Council Act 1861. Okay. Then Indian members were also nominated, है ना, in legislative councils. वही जो imperial legislative council था, which later became parliament, उसमें Indian members को भी allow किया जाने लगा, है ना? राजा ऑफ बनारस, महाराजा ऑफ पटियाला, सब दिन कर रहा हूँ. ठीक है. So these are some of the basic things you should be knowing. Legislative devolution to provinces. Again, I have told you the powers जो था centralizing tendency अब decentralized tendency हो गया, है ना? So Madras presidency and Bombay presidency were given back those powers of making laws in their own state, which was earlier taken up by Calcutta presidency. Okay. Then ordinance power. I hope you are aware. आज भी Article 123 के अंदर today the president has power of ordinance, है ना? So similar ordinance power. Viceroy was given ordinance power also. So the act granted Viceroy the authority to issue ordinance for up to 6 months. मतलब अगर if the imperial legislative council is not working, if it is in recess, if the session is not happening of Imperial Legislative Council, still the Viceroy has power to make ordinance. Like today, President can pass an ordinance if the Parliament is not in session. Similar to that, if the Imperial Legislative Council is not in session, then Viceroy can pass an order, or can pass an ordinance. तो ये भी 1867 लॉ में आया था, ठीक है. उसके बाद क्या होता है, 1892 में इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट was passed. Now अब देखो ना, ये है why, because इसके बैकग्राउंड समझना. 1885 Indian National Congress was formed, just a few years before ना. Indian National Congress was formed. Please tell me the name of the founder. बताओ तो chat में. Who was the founder of this? Anyone? Founder of Indian National Congress and first president. ये सब पूछा था एग्जाम में. Yes, very good. A.O. Hume. And first president कौन थे? Founder was A.O. Hume. First president was W.C. Banerjee. And it was founded in 1885 in Bombay. December 1885. Yes. नहीं, W.C. Banerjee थे, not Dada Banerjee. First president थे W.C. Banerjee थे. ठीक है. So 1885 में बना. उसके बाद क्या हुआ कि कांग्रेस started demanding many things. ठीक है. From the ruling British government. इसीलिए इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट में आप देखोगे थोड़ा सा उसका इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा. ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट कुछ चीज अलाउ करने लगी. So gradually in 1829 British government started giving something. ठीक है. तो क्या क्या देना शुरू कर दिया. देखो इंक्रीज इन, मैं दिखाता हूँ अभी पहले क्या क्या कुछ पॉइंट्स इंपॉर्टेंट. 1892 इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1892 में दे इंक्रीज नॉन ऑफिशियल मेंबर्स. तो खैर इतना आपको याद नहीं करना, बट जस्ट हैव एन आइडिया. हाँ, so the act resulted in addition of one more member to the Governor General's Legislative Council. ठीक है. कुछ some sort of elections, although indirect election, लेकिन कुछ तरह का election का provision लाना शुरू कर दिया. They did not mention the word election, but some sort of election process was there for some non-official members. तो जो non-official members थे उनका किसी तरह का indirect type का election होने लगा. हालांकि election word नहीं लिखा गया, but वो वही था roughly. Right to express views on financial matters, मतलब बजट पर डिस्कशन किया जा सकता था in Imperial Legislative Council. Why? Because Indians were demanding, Congress आ गई थी, Indian National Congress was formed, so they were demanding a lot of things. तो कुछ space दिया है ना ब्रिटिश ने. Right to question the executive again, and the legislatures were allowed to question the executive in public interest. So legislatures मतलब जो members होते होंगे Imperial Legislative Council के, now they can ask questions. By giving a 6-day notice. Because Indian National Congress was demanding a lot of things from British, like right to ask questions, right to, so these things they were demanding. So लोगों ने 1892 में थोड़ा सा space दिया. They gave some space. That is what you should be knowing. ठीक है. So this is the background. Then only we will understand it. तो आपको एक rough idea लग गया होगा, है ना? जैसे local bodies में empowerment मिला, local bodies, universities, district boards, municipalities, इन लोगों को power मिला. ठीक है. So they also got some power because the Congress was demanding a lot of things from the British. तो कुछ होना थोड़ा सा some portion, some powers they gave to them. Now 1909 is important. उसके बाद 1892 के बाद now we are having 1909, what we call it as Morley-Minto Reforms. And हमने बता दिया Viceroy's name was Lord Minto and Secretary of State for India was John Morley. ठीक है. And this was brought. देखो होता क्या था यहाँ पे इंडिया में पहले till 1911 Calcutta was the capital. Then later on it shifted to Delhi. ठीक है. 1911 में they shifted. So Delhi में today is राष्ट्रपति भवन. So राष्ट्रपति भवन की जगह actually earlier it was called as Viceroy's house, है ना? Where today Rashtrapati Bhavan is there, है ना? That is the place where Viceroy used to sit before independence. Calcutta में कौन सी building थी before 1911 where Viceroy used to sit? This is a previous year question of CLAT. 2023 में पूछा था ये question. CLAT 2023 asked this question. that Viceroy in Calcutta used to sit in which building? Please tell me. This is a previous year question of CLAT. Anyone? Not Victoria Palace. नहीं. चूंकि PYQ है इसलिए आपको पता होना चाहिए. I'm expecting you to answer. That building is actually inside the National Library premises of Kolkata. उस बिल्डिंग का नाम क्या है? Where Viceroy used to sit. I am giving some time. Anyone? PYQ है, पता होना चाहिए. बेलविएडर हाउस कहते हैं. बेलविएडर हाउस. ठीक है. This you should remember. Because if it PYQs gets repeated, then of course you should be knowing. ठीक है. So Delhi में है ना, Viceroy used to sit. और यूके में प्राइम मिनिस्टर होते थे, ब्रिटिश प्राइम मिनिस्टर. एंड आई हैव टोल्ड यू he had a lot of ministers. बहुत सारे मिनिस्टर होते थे. One of the minister was Secretary of State for India, whose main job was to look after India. खास करके एक सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट बनाए गए थे कि इंडिया के बारे में देखने के लिए. एंड दैट सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट फॉर इंडिया वाज जॉन मॉर्ले, है ना. तो इसीलिए इनका नाम था. दिस लॉ इज आल्सो कॉल्ड एज मॉर्ले-मिंटो रिफॉर्म्स. ठीक है. What it brought, I mean, इसका बैकग्राउंड देखोगे 1909 में लाया गया. उससे पहले there was the background was 1905 Partition of Bengal. ये शायद आपने पढ़ा होगा. देखो इस रीजन को पहले बंगाल कहते थे. This huge region was called as Bengal. Okay. Okay. Now, so basically they partitioned it East Bengal and West Bengal like this. The British partitioned it in 1905, and this was opposed by Indians by launching which movement? उस movement का नाम बताइए. Please tell me which movement. So this why? Because East and Bengal, West Bengal, why it was actually partitioned? देखो ऐसा partition हुआ था ये East Bengal and West Bengal. 1905 में partition हुआ. 1911 में it was remerged. merged कर दिया था बाद में फिर से. So it was partitioned just to ensure the policy of divide and rule, just to create a religious divide. That was one of the reasons why Bengal was divided to East and West. But the British say that they did it because of administration, for efficiency of administration. But Indians opposed it because Indians believe that yes, you are dividing us on the basis of religion. That is why you are not doing it. So 1905 में partition of Bengal happened. 1905, Indians started a movement called as Swadeshi and Boycott movement. ठीक है. That is what you should know. Very important. 1905 Swadeshi and Boycott movement. उसके बाद ये लाया गया था Morley-Minto Reforms. ठीक है. That is what you should know it 4 years later. So again, there was an attempt to actually divide, because मैंने आपको कई बार बताया है that British practiced the policy of divide and rule. That is what you should be knowing. ठीक है. So what happened was कि British were saying कि we will give some sort of elections in Imperial Legislative Council, because मैंने बताया कि 1892 में there were some signs of elections, but they have not explicitly mentioned the term election. But when they were supposed to bring 1909 law, there was reports that elections will be happening. And उसी टाइम पे जब 1909 से just पहले 1906 में Muslim League was formed. And who formed it? 1906 in Dhaka. It was formed by Khwaja Salimullah of Dhaka. This is considered as the main founder of Muslim League. Please remember it. कभी-कभी ऐसा question आता है. Founder of Muslim League. Nawab of Dhaka. Dhaka is today in Bangladesh. His name was Khwaja Salimullah. Okay, so he established All India Muslim League. And actually, Shimla Deputation होता है. Shimla is placed in Himachal. I hope you are aware. They go and meet the Governor General that okay, you are going to conduct an election. Aga Khan was also one of the leader of Muslim League. So they go to the Lord Minto and say, please give us separate electorates. If you are introducing elections, please give us separate electorates. and the British said, okay, we will give. So 1909, Morley-Minto Reforms, British give separate electorates to Muslims. Okay, what is separate electorates? मैंने बताया है, तो go to our YouTube channel playlist में जाना, view for playlist में जाना, McDonald Award and Pune Pact. Here I have explained in detail separate electorates. And how it is different from reservation. Here, McDonald Award is giving separate electorates to depressed classes, that is Dalits. So that was also opposed by Gandhi ji. ठीक है? तो ये आप पढ़िएगा, so you will understand what is separate electorates. So the British, why? Because the British wanted divide and rule. So they found कि अच्छा ठीक है, let's divide the people. So they actually gave separate electorates to Muslims in 1909. ये वाले में ना, आप देख सकते हो Shimla Deputation. Then है ना, इसमें और कुछ आपने करनी है. हाँ, ओके. फिर और क्या क्या हुआ पार्लियामेंट्री रिफॉर्म्स में? इट एक्सपैंडेड लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल्स, ठीक है, तो नंबर्स को एक्सपैंड कर दिया गया. कंपोजिशन ऑफ इम्पेरियल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल वाज इंक्रीज्ड. जो मेन चीज हुआ था है ना, इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ नॉन ऑफिशियल मेजॉरिटी, ठीक है, वही इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्शंस वर ब्रॉट. दैट इज द मेन थिंग कि वी विल ब्रिंग इलेक्शन इन 1909 वेयर एक्चुअली members will be directly elected, local bodies were to elect an electoral college. इतना डिटेल नहीं जाना. इसमें जो मेन चीज है Morley-Minto रिफॉर्म्स में वो यही है कि actually they gave in when it comes to election they gave separate electorates to Muslims. So the concept of separate electorate was introduced in 1909 Morley-Minto reforms by giving separate electorates to Muslims in 1909. Okay. Now here's the question: who was the first Indian to be added in Viceroy's Executive Council? And it was added after that 1909 reforms. First Indian to be added in Viceroy's Executive Council. Anyone? The right answer is SP Sinha. B is the right answer. ठीक है. तो ये अगर आप देखोगे, so you'll get to know. And Indian जो Viceroy's Executive Council होते हैं, for the first time he allowed an Indian. The first Indian to get the seat was Satyendra Prasad Sinha. ठीक है. और यही सबसे कंट्रोवर्शियल है, वही जो separate electorates were given to Muslims because Muslim League had demanded and they agreed for that. So ये आपको पता होना चाहिए, है ना. So the separate electorates were given to Muslims in 1909 through Morley-Minto reforms. But later on, British extended this to Christian, Sikh and Anglo-Indian. ये मैंने पढ़ाया है वो वाली क्लास में, McDonald Award वाली क्लास में. ये वाली जो क्लास है ना, McDonald Award and Pune Pact, इसे मैंने बताया है. I have discussed it. Yes, dog lover, very good. 1919 में Montagu Chelmsford reform. This we will discuss tomorrow. They extended separate electorates to Christians, Sikh and Anglo-Indian as well. So A is the right answer to this question. ठीक है. तो ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. The next one is who is considered as father of communal electorates? Again, it's very easy because the idea of separate electorate was started in 1909. The genesis was here. So who was the person? Lord Minto, who was the Viceroy of India. Because of Shimla agreement हुआ, Shimla में जो deputation हुआ with Muslim League, he agreed. So that okay, we'll give. So he sent the message to the England, and of course later on it was approved. A is the right answer to this question. That's why he's called as father of communal electorate. ठीक है. फिर significance far उतना नहीं जानना, but जो whatever we have discussed, that is more than enough. And after that, this Indian Council Act or Morley-Minto reforms of 1909 was then. After that, some constitutional changes were brought in 1919, called as Montagu Chelmsford reform, which we will discuss in tomorrow's class. ठीक है. Criticism में वही तो main criticism ये था कि it led to rise of communalism because you gave separate electorates to Muslims, and this was an attempt of British divide and rule policy. ठीक है. That is what you should be knowing. और दूसरी बात ये कहता है कि आपने communalize भी किया, but you did not give much authority. Like elections were there, but not much power were given. Devolved to the Indians. Okay. That is what you should be knowing. Okay. So there were still issues like poverty, illiteracy, social inequalities were still there. Okay. So this is all about today's class. में ज़्यादा नहीं detail जाना है, जितना important था उतना मैंने बता दिया, because if you tell me I keep on discussing for 1 hour, but that's not the case. जो important चीजें related with Morley-Minto reforms I have already discussed. So tomorrow also I'll be meeting you at 4 p.m. and I will discuss Montagu-Chelmsford reform. So please subscribe to the channel, press the like button, share this video. Thank you everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.